So, when I was 14 and I started lifting, I didn't really know which direction I wanted to go in. I know I wanted to get stronger. I know I wanted to put on some muscle mass, become more athletic. I had a lot of goals, a lot of reasons for training. At the time, I was playing basketball still a little bit, and I was unsure whether or not I'd go back onto the school team for the next year, for my 10th grade year. But I figured, why not? If I'm gonna do it again, maybe I should be more athletic. That was one of my initial reasons for starting. A few months in, I discovered this thing called powerlifting, and later on, strongman. And let's just say basketball went out the window very quickly. Now, I'm not a powerlifter at this point, and I don't plan to go back towards it. I do still do bench and squat, not so much deadlifting anymore, but those lifts do matter to me. My strength does matter to me. So, who knows? Maybe in the future I'll compete. I don't know. I doubt it. But what I will say is, when I was a beginner, that is absolutely what I wanted to do. After that first little period, I fell in love with the idea of being super strong. Even if it was just on those three lifts, I was like, "Fuck it, man! I wanna I wanna squat 1,000 pounds." You know, all that cool stuff I saw those guys on YouTube doing. But my point with this video, and this is gonna be a shorter one, but my whole point is that if you're new to the gym and you don't know what to do, just start off as a powerlifter. Just make that your default. Because when you're a beginner, a lot of beginners fall into the trap of doing advanced workouts that are recommended to them by bodybuilders who have been training for 10, 12 years. And you won't make the same gains as them on that system on any of those routines, because they're not tailored to beginners. They're tailored to people who have already built a lot of the muscle they can and are just trying to squeeze out the last few gains in the corners of their body where they can come from. So the reason I'm saying start out as a power lifter is because you build a foundation with those big three lifts that hit pretty much all of the muscles in your body. If you don't have a beginner routine, literally just go to the gym and do bench, squat, and deadlift. That's it. Learn how to do those three lifts, and you will make, honestly, 80% of gains from that for your first year and a bit. Obviously, do more research, add to it, but as for a beginner routine, you don't even really need to complicate it that much. That's another thing I want to talk about in this video. People complicate going to the gym way too much. Just go, do the big three lifts, and then learn along the way, right? Like I touched on in one of the other videos I've recently released about how you're in this for life and it doesn't matter what weight's on the bar right now. That same mindset can apply to your training. The way you're training right now doesn't necessarily have to be 100% optimal, because you'll learn more about training, about exercise science, about your body as time goes on. As you gain more experience in the gym, you naturally learn more about all of these things. So that's another point. But back to the main point of this video. Start off as a power lifter, right? Build that foundation, build that strength. It'll transfer very well over to whatever you want to do. If you want to go do calisthenics, which I don't know why you're in the gym if you just want to do calisthenics, but let's say that's the route you decide to take at some point. If you start off as a power lifter, you'll have strength to do those movements anyways. Say you want to go into bodybuilding, you'll have strength to do that too, right? You'll have strength to do your isolation movements and other things that are, more tailored towards targeting smaller muscles, and you'll be able to make progress on them faster and build extra muscle faster because you've built that strength base. Obviously, bodybuilding does have some crossover with powerlifting in the way of training. Like bodybuilders typically do squat and bench. Some don't deadlift, which I'm still on the fence about. I don't know if I'm going to return to doing deadlifts myself, because I found I would have this ego where I had to always lift as heavy as possible, and I never gave myself, like a week to go 70, 80%. I was always like, no, I have to max out every week. And while that got me to a 405 deadlift relatively fast, I hit that when I was 17, 3 years into training. Some have probably done it faster, but whatever. Again, I was 17, right? And that was coming out of my COVID laziness, so I could have probably done it faster. But either way, I worked my way up to 405. I'm happy with that. I can still Romanian deadlift 275 for reps, so I'm good with that lift. If there's muscle benefits to be made, because right now I'm focused on bodybuilding. Of course, I'll go back to it, and I'm sure there are, but either way, that was a little tangent. My bad. But yeah, that kind of sums this whole video up. Just start off with a powerlifting program if you don't know what to do. Look into Strong Lifts 5x5. It's a great program, right? Or I could even run you through what I did, pretty much. So, here you go. I went to the gym 3 days a week for the first 2 years. No. Yeah, the first year of my training after the period where I was just working out at home. So my first year in an actual gym, I went to the gym 3 times a week. You don't need to go more than that if you're just doing this casually, but if you want to make a lot of progress, I suggest doubling what I'm saying. But I would go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's just because that's when I had time. I was in school. My mom couldn't drive me to the gym super late. It's fine, right? I was 15. But what I did that got me to a 225 bench in a year when I was 15 years old, 335 squat, I believe was my max, and 315 for 3 reps on the deadlift, right? So decent numbers for a 15-year-old for sure. Decent numbers for anyone, but especially for a 15-year-old. Pretty good numbers for a 15-year-old, I'd say. Anyways, this was essentially, from my memory, the program that I did. I built all 3 of my workouts around the big 3 lifts, right? Rather than around different muscle groups, I built it around improving at those 3 lifts because that was my goal at the time. I just wanted to be as strong on those lifts as possible. So for bench, on my chest day, but this was my bench press day, obviously the first exercise was bench press. Right there, that if you do that, that's maybe not 80% of your gains, but maybe it's like 60 or 70% of the gains are made on that workout because you're hitting your chest, you're hitting your triceps, you're hitting your shoulders, you're using your core, you're using a lot of muscles right there. So I started by structuring my chest day around the bench press, and from there, the next logical thing to do, well, I'm already on the bench, why don't I drop the weight and move my arms closer? Then I started doing close grip bench. That was the second exercise I did on my chest days. So bench, close grip bench. Then I'm thinking, oh, let me do some shoulder work directly. Got the dumbbells, did some shoulder press, right? You know, everyone's got dumbbells and a bench at their gym. That was my third exercise. And then at that point, I'm thinking, what else have I not hit? I've hit my chest directly, I've hit my shoulders. Triceps. Now, of course, I was neglecting my lateral delts a little bit and my traps, but again, I was a beginner. And as you'll see moving into the rest of the workouts that I'm going to talk about, I hit those muscles anyways, indirectly, but that was my bench routine, my chest routine. Bench press, close grip bench press, shoulder press with dumbbells, and then tricep pushdowns or extensions, overhead dumbbell, whatever you want to do for your triceps, right? You could do tricep kickbacks, you can do overhead tricep extensions with a dumbbell, you could do them pushdowns on a machine, you can do pull downs on a machine, you could do skull crushers if you wanted, did those for a little while. But the point was I made sure I hit every single muscle, and if you're a beginner looking to build your own program or find a good program for you, that's a philosophy to live by, essentially. Make sure whatever you're doing, you're hitting all the muscles that you want to build. Seems pretty logical, right? But kind of flew over my head for a while. So that was my chest routine. Then bench routine. Sorry, because again, I'm structuring them around the lifts. Then onto the squat. My squat routine was a lot simpler. Didn't do as many smaller movements. It was actually just back squats, front squats, and then calf raises for a long time. Because the back squat is such a big compound movement, and it takes so much out of you, especially out of your core and your lower back. I didn't have the energy to do anything after that. Like, doing front squats was pain for me, right? So I didn't even think about directly training hamstrings or anything. But I made fine leg gains because the squat, they call it the king of all leg exercises for a reason, because it is. It's a great exercise. So that was my squat exercise. Squat, front squats, where if you don't know, you could either hold the bar like this, which I don't know if I have the shoulder mobility to do. I've never liked doing that. I just put it on my traps at the front and hold it with my arms crossed. Kind of pinch it to your shoulders there. It's easier once you practice it. And then I did calf raises or calf press, seated. There's machines like that at most gyms. Whatever you can get your hands on. But Work your calves. Don't neglect the calves. Squat doesn't really hit them that well. And then for my deadlift workout, again, it was more of the same. The deadlift took most of the energy out of me. And as I was talking about in my chest workout where I missed my traps, the deadlift hit the traps for me, and that's what made them grow. I didn't do shrugs for a while, and I would have had more optimal, trap growth when I was in my beginning stages, but the deadlift hit them for me pretty good anyways, So deadlift was the first. Then I did deficit deadlifts, which is, for those who don't know, you stand on some plates or an elevated surface, and essentially it makes you bend further down to pick up the bar to deadlift. And I don't know what the exact benefits of it are, but it made it harder to lift the same amount of weight. So I was thinking it must be good. I see all these powerlifters doing it. And so I did those. For a while I switched to pause deadlifts, which I found to also be quite effective at increasing my strength. And after that it was honestly just on to bicep curls. My workouts were very simple back then. Bench day was 4 exercises, squat day was 3, deadlift day was 3. And I made fine gains. Like I said, I did pretty much that exact program with a couple variations as I learned. For the first year, I was actually in a physical gym. And even though I was getting fat at this point, if you did that with a cleaner bulk, you'd probably make better strength gains than I did anyways. And like I said, I was 15, I was benching 225, I was squatting 335, and I was deadlifting 315 for reps. So no matter what age you're at, if you're a beginner, start off as a power lifter if you don't have another better program in mind, and learn as you go. Build the strength base, just be strong, and it'll transfer over well into anything else you do. I'd like to hear what people think about this, because not a lot of people, at least in my experience, have this same kind of mindset. I haven't heard many people talk about this, so if you're a more advanced lifter and you agree or disagree, whatever it is, shoot me a message on Instagram. If you're a beginner and you want to learn from me, you want to talk, whatever it is, again, shoot me a message. My DMs are open. I'm an open book. Love talking to you guys. All right. Have a good one, guys.